1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. The Wednesday Show Live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. Wednesday Show Live. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It is the Wednesday show. I am your host, Ian Croll, and joining me today to talk all things Everton, we have Gavin Buckland. Gav, just me and you today. Everyone, the usual suspects, Joe, Chris, Tony, Connor, all unavailable. So just me and you. How are things?
Fine, mate. Fine. Yeah, I noticed you've got matching headphones and the top on there, by the way. I thought they started that on there.
He's matching?
Yeah.
It wasn't intended.
Yeah, I thought you'd taken style to new levels there. Yeah, fine. Yeah. Looking forward to the game tonight. Nice kick-off time, which is unlike some of the others.
It's a nice kick-off time, but also slightly inconvenient if you need to get home and dash home.
Yeah, well, some of us don't need to these days, as you well know. And yeah, we will. Looking forward to it. Enjoyed. We were just talking about France off air last night.
Yeah. Don't look like they got out of first gear.
Yeah,
he's still looking incredible
against the, I think Sweden had like £200 million of players up front as well. That front 4 or 5 of France is just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
and they're the team to beat. If they play to a certain level, then nobody's going to live with them.
No, and we were just saying as well, they seem to be on the better side of the draw, where England have a tougher.
Oh, we've got horrible. Yeah, it's just like obviously if we win tonight,
Mexico will be
Mexico.
Easy.
In the Azteca, and then it's possibly Brazil then, isn't it? In the quarters.
Isn't there a stat or something that Mexico only lost twice at the Azteca in like
70 competitive matches or something
ridiculous?
Yeah,
it goes back years though, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I mean, Argentina is a really easy run, isn't it? Really. So
are they on the front side of the draw? Argentina,
possible, but their run till the semis is easy, or even the final itself. I'm not sure, but yeah. So it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you can be penalised for winning your group. Yeah, it's been decent to watch a lot more of the football than I was anticipating. It was over Paraguay, Germany was more interesting than what people were expecting.
I stayed up for the first half and then missed obviously the better half.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the score when I watched the highlights.
Oh, didn't you? Yeah.
So obviously when the penalties were on, I thought Paraguay had messed it up, but they didn't. They went through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was insane. Lesson there about the perils of VAR, because I was like yourself, it becomes tiring, doesn't it? Especially goes extra time. And when Germany equalised, when they scored to make it 2-1. Thought I'm going to bed, put my PJs on, brushing my teeth, gone to bed next minute from downstairs. Being disallowed.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So
you're just getting prepared.
All the way back down again to watch the rest. But some of it's been a bit moderate. Some of it's been decent, but it was well worth watching. Just France last night. They were just incredible. That Barcola, Dembele, Mbappe, Olise.
That
from 4 is
overhead attempt was
and
insane.
the players who come on is sub, Douay, Ryan Cherky.
The crazy thing is, I was watching Olise, and obviously, like I say, that attempt, the overhead was incredible. I still don't even think he's on the same level as Mbappe. Mbappe is just so good at what he does, the way he creates space, and he's obviously got the speed as well. Don't get me wrong, that's not a criticism of Olise. I just think they've got so many options.
Far more graceful to watch Olise though, isn't he? He's smoother, isn't he?
Of them. If they don't win the World Cup, then something's gone terribly wrong for them.
Yeah, possibly. But you never know, do you, in tournament football? I mean, I think if we played France, their attack against our defence, I think we'd be watching it behind the couch. To be fair,
well, it's going to be the final, won't it?
It will be. But I've quite enjoyed it. It's we said last week. It's once you get all the justifiable noise around the tournament that that people have spoken about quite rightly, and it's still there to a degree. Once you get into the football, you forget about all that stuff, don't you? Quite rightly, and then it becomes about football. Duff stuff, by the way, last night, of which I that stat about Haaland being the fastest to 60 international goals. He even said it on the BBC. No,
he was wrong.
He was wrong, yeah, absolutely. That's I corrected there. Well, I tell you what.
Who is the fastest?
Gerd Muller.
Okay.
The bomber. German, great, truly great German striker. He got to 60 in 48 games. Haaland got 60 in 53.
Still an incredible record, though. Both, obviously.
Yeah, I mean and he's proven it wrong is if you see Haaland's record, because it's stratified, isn't it, in international football? If you're not in the top group of international clubs teams, if you're below that, you never play big team. I mean, Haaland's not played Brazil, Argentina, France. He's played Spain once, played Netherlands once. He's not played the big. All the teams he's played are all like the lower level. You know, your Kosovos, your Lithuanias, your Israel.
Yeah,
still a phenomenal striker.
Yeah,
and that's a great record. But if to be regarded as the best, you've got to be scoring, and he's proven it this season. You've got to score against the big teams in big games, isn't it? And that's why Gerd Muller is the best, and will always be the best, because Gerd Muller's record against the big teams in big games was incredible.
No coincidence though that Norway are in a major competition for the first time since 1998, and Haaland is spearheading that.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's when people say, right, comparing records, I mean, Gerd Muller's playing a really good team as well, by the way. Probably one of the best 2 or 3 best teams I've ever seen in the early 70s. But his record in World Cups, European Championships, you know, was just phenomenal. And it was incorrect stats, actually. And I'll tell you what, I'll shout out TNT Sports, who I corrected, didn't, and a few people did, by the way, did not delete the tweets. They've still got it out there, and it's incorrect.
They obviously don't know you're the stat man.
Well, no, there was a few other people corrected them, and that's just wrong, isn't it? But not to be unexpected.
Well, just a few comments here. So James Graham says that overhead kick was Pele-esque.
Yeah.
And P. Macker says, I never knew Elise was this good at Palace. To be fair, it's a good shout.
Yeah,
I don't think
he was a bit younger, wasn't he?
Yeah, obviously develops.
And if you think about what I was saying last week, he was the young player of the year in the Championship 5 years ago. And I think he's one of the best 3 players in the world, Elise. You know, but he's just, people see things, don't they? And obviously Bayern saw it. And I think it was quite a big fee that he paid, though, didn't he, Bayern?
Yeah.
It was 70 mil, was it? Something like that, I can't remember. But he's off. And there's more to come. There's a little bit of Gareth Bale in he without Bale's power, I think, and aerial ability. That's why Bale was the best British player of the 21st century. But yeah, he's a phenomenal player, at least. But Mbappe is, I mean, that third goal, I mean, it was just beautiful, wasn't it? You know, the execution of it.
It's the way they find the space, even with a bit of a low block from Sweden.
Yeah.
He manages to slip that ball through and just find
the legs,
space.
wasn't it?
Open, it was.
Yeah.
Open his body up to score from that angle was incredible. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No. They just think. If you think about like Dembele, who's like, wasn't he the Ballon d'Or winner last year? Was he Dembele?
Yes, he was.
To them too, he's in a bit of a supporting role.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, because he only hadn't scored a World Cup goal, had he?
Yeah, and
this one.
Bradley he's up for sale, isn't he, Barkley, I think. And then you see what they come off the bench do. Ryan Cherky, people like that, who are great players themselves. It's astounding. I mean, what is it? That French, you know, we talk about academies. What was it? 59 players in the World Cup born in Paris.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely incredible. And France was just so good last night, and it was just well worth staying up, even if you knew the result, just to watch them play. It was brilliant. So
Simon says, to think Elise started out at Reading, who would have thought that? That's why you have to look towards the Championship to get players. We spoke about that last week, about all the players. It was a big talking point. Eze, Semenyo, you know, people, you know, and I say that, he was a QPR, was he, Eze? I think the general consensus from that conversation, obviously I was sat on the producer desk there, but I think everyone was pretty much in agreement that the gulf between Championship and Premier League as a whole is big, but you're still finding gems there. Yeah, and there's evidence of that over the past couple of years. Well, forever. I mean, Gareth Bale's a Championship player, wasn't he? There is at the top end. There's always going to be quality there.
it's just finding it. It's just some of the fees. I mean, if you think of how the fees now, what did you get KO for? 1.5 million.
God, you got a better memory than me.
Yeah, and you know, you'd be talking 10 times that fee now, aren't you? Really, and.
Because if you're going to put him in the same bracket as Hayden Hackney in terms of a central midfielder, we're paying 16 million.
10 times as much money, aren't you? Similar age player.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. Yeah, there's something about the French midfield maybe not being that great, but I don't
need a good midfield when you've got
just somebody to win the ball and pass.
Those 3 attackers, do you?
Yeah, those 3 or 4. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, we know you love France, Gav, so I'm sure you've got a couple of quid on them. No.
But you want me to talk about? You want me to talk about a bet involving France?
No, we'll move on. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. Today's agenda.
I could take a whole podcast about me bet on France I went wrong.
Right, well, we'll start talking about Everton now.
Yeah.
Plenty of Everton news to get through,
which is good.
Yeah, some transfer news, some off the field news. Everton have agreed a new shirt sponsor or a new front of shirt sponsor deal with financial services firm CMC Markets. We're keeping Stake as a sleeve sponsor,
which we're allowed to under the rules. Which is a bit bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, surprising. But according to Paul Joyce, if I can just find me notes, the deal combined with Stake moving to the shirt sleeve sponsor is said to be worth around £25 million a year.
Yeah,
for the club. So go on, we'll talk about that in a sec. Other bits that we're going to talk about. So Everton in talks with Chelsea over potential transfer for Tyrique George, and things said to be progressing well. We all know that a deal has been agreed with Middlesbrough for Hayden Hackney. I know you, Joe and Chris spoke at length on the Monday show about that, but I think the news broke after the podcast, didn't it? That things had progressed well, a deal had been agreed, so now we're kind of just waiting on the announcements, medical. I'm sure personal terms have already been agreed with regards to that.
Yeah.
And then finally, if you've got a bit of time, just I guess non-Everton related / potential Everton related.
It is Everton related.
Depends how you want to look at it. So, going to discuss the news that Aston Villa, Chelsea, Newcastle and Nottingham Forest have all been fined by UEFA for breaching financial sustainability regulations. So what does that mean for Everton?
Not the first time financial sustainability regulations and Everton have been mentioned on this pod, is it really?
No, at least we're not taking the brunt of it this time.
Yeah.
Just a quick word for our sponsor, NordVPN. If you want a secure internet connection, if you want faster internet speeds, and if you want to protect all your data online, then go and check out our sponsor, NordVPN. NordVPN protects your private data like bank details, passwords, and online identity. And NordVPN protects your data whilst traveling, as well as using public Wi-Fi. And NordVPN has protection feature, protects your against viruses, malicious malware, as well as phishing sites. So for more information and to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/EFC. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on a 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And for more information, the link is in the podcast episode description box. Right. I'll just read this out and then I'll get reaction to it. So this was Everton sent this out yesterday. It was embargoed till this morning, 8 a.m. So the news was officially released this morning. Everton Football Club has confirmed that CMC Markets as the new club's new main partner in a landmark multi-year agreement. CMC Markets is a FTSE 250 company and a global multi-asset financial services firm, and will become Everton's front of shirt sponsor from the 2026-2027 season, and it will appear on the club's senior men's shirts, women's and under-21s kits. And as mentioned, according to Paul Joyce, it's worth 25 million combined with the Stake sleeve sponsor as well. So just your thoughts on that, Everton. Another commercial deal, more money into the club. Do you see this as a positive, Gav?
I think bringing more money, cards on the table. I'm not a great fan of betting, being associated with betting firms, just generally in football, and find it bizarre that they had this agreement not to have them on the shirt front, but you can still have them on the sleeves. Not a fan of that, but Everton are operating within the guidelines. So any additional money they get on the sleeve sponsorship is beneficial. CMC Markets again, financial services, but it's more like I think it's more like crypto as well, isn't it, and betting and stuff. They maybe not ideal, but again within the regulations. Yeah, you've always got to take these with a bit of pinch of salt, though. Some of the numbers that and I know Paul said there 25 million, and I think sometimes that can be the top end. Like what we get if we get into the Champions League. And that goes any other football club. I mean, I think Stake was 10 million, wasn't it? I think for their shares, front of shirt deal, and a few million for the sleeve. So if you comparing whatever 20-25 against what we were getting, maybe which is probably 13 or 14, and that's an uplift, isn't it? £6-7 million a year, and we need that, don't we? Like any other club, and if I think we're doing well if we come out of removing the betting partner from the front of shares. If we come out having a better deal than that, then I think that's obviously beneficial for the club, because the fear wasn't it, if you're going elsewhere, once you remove the betting companies, then you may actually lose money. And if you gained a few bob, then that's financially that's good for the club. But as sponsors, they're not
unsure about them.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's just football for you, isn't it, really? And we're not breaking any rules, so I've not got a problem with that aspect.
I guess the other way of looking at it, Gav, is that, let's face it, we all know the past couple of years have been extremely turbulent. Commercial growth has not been there for the club, and the new owners have come in, and there does seem to be a shift. There seems to be an uplift in what the club are doing off the pitch from absolutely. A commercial point of view. Whether that is down to the owners themselves, whether that is because we've got the new stadium, it could be a combination of both.
Of all them things, doesn't it, really, and more having more contacts and so on. But I'm not defending the club's commercial team here, it isn't, but ultimately, we've spoken about this before several times, what you can get commercially is really based on one thing: where you are in the pecking order. That is why when we looked at when you could sponsor front of shirt with betting companies, that's why the top 6 or 7 of the Premier League or top 8 have blue chip companies, whoever sponsoring them, and the rest have betting companies sponsor them, because actually that's the determining factor of who will sponsor you and getting the best value out of that sponsorship. It's not basically because you've got a bad commercial team or you can't negotiate. It's purely because where your position is in the league. And there's one exception to that, and that is if you are the sole club in the city. So if you ever look at Leeds and Newcastle's commercial deals, they are far ahead of where they should be, because if you're the sole club in the city, the exposure you get from that as a sponsor is far greater. Yeah. So say Leeds, what Leeds get commercially is enormous amount of money compared, say, to Everton. Not enormous, it's far more than Everton, and that's not because they're the bigger club, because they're the only club in the city, and that gives you so much more bang for your buck, isn't it, if you're a sponsor? Same with Newcastle, that's always been the case. So I think sometimes the club's got unfair stick about how good they are commercially, when a lot of it's just down to they've only got so much wiggle room because where the club is. And let's face it, some of the noise around the club over the last 4 or 5 years, I would imagine, has not exactly attracted sponsors, has it, really? But we're now moving out of that, and that's good to see. And if we get more money out of this deal, both the share fronts and sleeve sponsorship, then I think we've done well.
Would you prefer, sorry, this is a really silly question, but would you prefer the club to have a better brand name on the share deal and maybe less money from a commercial point of view? Or
in terms of is it really worth it? I think there's a conversation there generally that actually,
I guess morally, that's where it comes in, doesn't
absolutely. I think speaking about this yesterday, if the difference between having you're trying to be careful here, haven't you?
Sorry, I
know what you mean. Worms. Yeah, no, but it's true. Say it's a company in the market which has not necessarily got the same reputation, not a great reputation, and you've got a company within for a market that has got a good reputation. Is it worth damaging your brand for an extra couple of £1 million a year? Because that's what the difference is, isn't it, ultimately? If you let's say betting, going back to when, that's probably better. When betting companies could sponsor front of shares, if your betting company sponsors the front of shares and you get 12 million off them a year, and another company, it's not a betting company, it might be, I don't know, an insurance company or something like that, is offering you £10 million a year. Do you really want to damage your brand or whatever, or have something that's a bit morally suspect? Is that really worth an extra £2 million to you?
Short-termism.
Yeah. Is that really, is it worth? I would argue, actually, I don't think it is. £2 million out of 250 million quid. And it is not a lot. But clubs and businesses, they've got to maximise their income. They have stakeholders and shareholders and stuff. They'll say, well, and as long as within the rules, we'll do it. I personally don't think it's worth it, but then again, I don't work in that business. But I do think that there is a balance to be struck.
I've seen a couple of comments on our channels, the Royal Blue channels, criticising it. But the Blues here are saying, isn't the whole point, to earn money? Therefore, the best brand is who pays the most.
With the rules and regulations about who can and cannot sponsor you, absolutely.
Which we are doing.
So it's not got a problem. But I do think, if you're looking at it a little bit more deeply, just generally speaking, not just talking about Everton, is it really worthwhile for you to do for an extra couple of £1 million a year? Paying your high, which is equivalent to what is paying our highest earner for a couple of months.
Well, do you see these? Again, obviously, got to be careful what we say. But do you see these brands, stake, CMC? Do you see them like damaging to the brand?
It's
of
just
Everton?
what supporters feel. I know people won't say, because if other clubs have got the same, it isn't. It's how supporters feel, isn't it? It's more about your own supporters, isn't it? Really, and I know we have been criticised in the past, haven't we, about gambling, and I think there was a commitment from the club several years ago not to, and then we didn't we?
Went back on it, didn't we?
Yeah, and the club will argue that that's legitimate. You can do that, and that's fine. But I do think you've got to have a model discussion within that. Well, it was like, I mean, even years ago, it was like, remember we had Chang sponsoring us. There was a few,
because it was a beer.
Because it was a beer, I'm not going to talk about beer and gambling, but which is the worst vice and which causes more damage. But there was conversations then, wasn't it? Is that right? So you couldn't have them on the kids could you, and stuff like that.
No.
So I do think within all this, I think it's correct to have a conversation, and any supporters who's uncomfortable with having some companies from a marketplace that perhaps unfairly has got a bad, not a great reputation, supporters being uncomfortable with that, I think I sympathise with that view.
Simon here makes a good point, which kind of probably loops in the UEFA fines for those Premier League clubs that I've mentioned, which we will speak about later on. But he says increasing revenue streams is the way forward to be more financially sustainable.
Yeah.
For a more financially stable club, hopefully this will help improve the playing squad. I guess clubs have never been... Football's always been a business, and I remember you saying even back in the 70s it was always about money.
Yeah, gone back to 60s, yeah.
Has there been a shift for you in terms of clubs have never been under more pressure now to make everything about the club more commercially viable, to make as much money as possible? And I guess this loops in ticket prices as well. Clubs being forced in many ways to increase ticket prices.
Absolutely.
To obviously show that commercial value is at the club, and making sure revenue at the end of the year and turnover is high. So at the end of the day, you can spend.
Because the cost of football has gone up. I mean, the cost of football, and I'm going to say the cost of football, not to supporters, the cost of football, of employing people in football and employing players, all that type of thing, and transfer fees, has run way ahead of inflation for many, many years. So in order to keep up with that, is you have to maximise your revenue. Because the cost of football has gone up dramatically over the he was talking about like the Tim Cahill thing and Hayden Hackney.
Yeah,
20 years, transfer fees increased tenfold. The rate of inflation has increased tenfold in that time, right. And so in order to keep up and to try and meet the expectations of fans, you've got to maximise revenue. I mean, and that's the reason, isn't it? Really, and people want to see their money on the pitch, and that's right as well. So, and then this leads us to maybe looking at sponsors that some supporters, thinking maybe not ideal, and talk about values of the club and all that type of thing.
There's a good comment here, or a strong opinioned comment, should I say. So WSAB 1878 says, pretty annoyed that we went from a shady gambling company to coin merchants as a shared sponsor. Everton have lost another chunk of their soul with this. I mean, you're going to...
I think that...
You're going to get comments like that,
I can sympathise with that view, really, just generally speaking. It's but the club will say quite rightly so, well, we're not doing anything that goes against Premier League rules, and so therefore we're comfortable with it. And they said that in the press release, didn't they? And they get a deal that gives an extra £5 or £6 million a year to try and compete. So we're comfortable with that position as well. It's you can see both sides of the argument, but I fully sympathise with people who are not. And I certainly am from the gambling side of it, who disagree with it. I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah, Chris Roberts there, I've just seen it. So Chris Roberts says, clearly the sponsorships are within the rules, however, surely there should be alignment with what the club stands for. No alignment with the People's Club moniker.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny, sympathise with that. I mean, but the club's in a difficult position, isn't it? As I say, it is in a difficult position. And... and as long as they operate within the rules, that's it really, isn't it?
Well, yeah, MLW9524 says, it's boring this, lads. Any transfer news?
I saw that and I thought, well, no, we've got no transfer news either. I'm talking about me Brazil fans back in 1986.
Don't listen to Gavin. We've got loads of transfer news.
Yeah,
what I will say...
Yeah, well, you said that at the start, didn't you?
To finish off nicely on this topic...
It's an interesting conversation, though, isn't it?
No, I think it's well worth having, isn't it? Yeah. We are going to move on now, but the kit is released tomorrow. You're going to buy it?
No. I don't buy kit. Only ever had one Everton kit, and that was 1971. So no, I'm not into all that. It just doesn't. It's never interested me, the kit thing. Well, it's noticeable though, isn't it? We spoke last week about some of things being a bit slow, and we're saying that the reason for that is probably we reaching the end of the financial year last week. It's noticeable, isn't it, that we've now gone into the new financial year from the 1st of July, and all of a sudden transfers, sponsorship, all that type of thing is all
starting to come out.
Comes out, hasn't it? So but I think there's an interesting model in football and conversation about shared sponsors in the wider context, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll move on then. It's a bit of transfer news for our commenter. Tyrique George.
We spoke about this last week, didn't we? This thing's moving on there, aren't they?
We did. We spoke about it, but I don't think things had progressed as much. We spoke about it mainly because the deadline to match the clause from the loan deal was going to pass, and I think that was around 25 million. So we know Everton wanted to renegotiate that, which obviously they were entitled to do. I guess the thing that has been updated now is that Everton are in advanced talks. It's going to be a completely new deal, and reports are suggesting that he's happy to come to Everton as well. Which does that surprise you, considering maybe the loan deal that he had
didn't get enough game time?
Well, obviously that's up for debate, isn't it? I would probably agree with you. I'm just saying that he obviously, somewhere along the line, an impact was made that he's happy to come to Everton if the reports are to be believed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there is interest elsewhere, but and I think maybe last year we were perhaps saying, last season we were saying perhaps would he be happy the amount of game time he's had. And maybe sometimes his performance is justified having more game time. Perhaps he was just thinking it the other way. He's getting experience, looking about where he can go at the end of his, not the end of his deal in the future. And maybe we misread that situation a little bit. But I think when we played it smart, if we just want, we can get him for a cheaper price than what we could have done.
Yeah. Which was seemingly what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And he's never going to get a game at Chelsea, is he?
No, but there's lots of players not going to get a game at Chelsea, aren't they? About 150 players are not going to get a game at Chelsea. It depends what's on offer elsewhere, isn't it? Really, as well.
Other clubs.
And there is rumours that other clubs are interested. But maybe he can offer a better deal. Knows the club. You can't say stuff like that these days. But, and maybe he's seen enough at the end of last season, with some new signs to think, I can build a future here. It'd be interesting to see what assurances being given about his role and stuff like that. Because when the player signs for a club, they're only interested in two things: A, how much you're going to pay me, and B, are you going to play me on the pitch? Well, actually, a lot of them just say, you're going to play me there. So it'd be interesting to see what assurances he's been given about game time.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because he's coming here to get more game time because he's never going to get minutes at Chelsea. But say, for instance, obviously, Ndiaye stays and we get Grealish in, whether that's a loan or a permanent deal.
Yeah, you've got 3 players on the left-hand side of the pitch.
Is he going to start on that first game of the season?
Well, yeah,
on
absolutely.
that basis?
There's an alternative scenario there that Grealish doesn't come and NJ gets sold, isn't it?
No, yeah, obviously there's that as well.
Or we play NJ on the right-hand side, so we don't know. I just think it would be interesting to see what the conversations there are about game time. That he'll be looking for, and then his representatives will be looking probably to play far more football than what he did in the 6 months at the end of last season.
Do you think they need to have that conversation?
If I was a player, yeah, of course they will play.
But surely Moyes, whoever's leading the negotiations, whoever's giving assurances.
Nick Hammond, is it?
Cox,
no, Nick Cox is our technical director.
So all right, we'll save Hammond then.
Yeah.
Is he going to give them guarantees that you're going to get these minutes?
I would imagine Moyes will have a word in the shell. I just think it's part and parcel of joining a club, especially if you're that age and you've got something to prove. So I would be, if you get him for a decent fee, which looks likely, then I'd be definitely that's a transfer I'd support.
Yeah, I know you were saying last week that you would definitely it would be a player that you'd be looking into.
I saw enough of him last year to think there's potential there that can be mined.
Well, Brian Burns says, do you think the George purchase will stop a Grealish deal? He says, let's hope not. I can't see that. I think if the club want both, they'll aim to go for both.
Yeah, but then it goes back to this question about what's the other deals we've got to do. Because if you think about it, I said last week, didn't we? This Kinnear, the statement at the end of last season about a 2 summer window or whatever it was, is if you bring Hackney in and you bring George in, that would mean that most of the players you bought in them 2 windows so far have all been midfielders or attackers, haven't they? And you've done nothing with the defence. So I remember they bought Hasney last year, so it would be interesting to see if if they want to get Grealish in, which I wouldn't agree with, but there you go. That ship's well sailed now. What are your plans elsewhere to strengthen the back 4?
James Graham says George will have the same guarantees as Dibbling and Asnu. None.
I don't know. They was. I don't know. It's slightly different with George. Is that he had played for us on loan last year, so it's a slightly different conversation with George and those two. And it depends on the options they've got. But you don't know what guarantees Dibbling and Asnu were given to you. They might have been.
I just think if you're not performing on the pitch, you're probably unlikely to get in the team.
I think certainly with Dibbling is you might have been, give you a chance to prove yourself, and you continue not proving yourself on the pitch, so you're dropped. So he has been opportunities, hasn't he, Dibbling, but hasn't taken them. Are
you surprised that the club are actually going in for George?
No, I think he's the sort of where we want to go. That type of deal is what we want to do.
No, I think that's fair enough. I just mean on the basis that we probably didn't get to see enough of him. Moyes,
I know
Moyes doesn't like to take a gamble, does he?
But he's not taking the gamble. Was Dibbling a gamble? Who's taking the gamble here? Is it Moyes or the transfer committee? Is it Kinnear, Nick Cox, Hammond, or all 4 of them taking gambles?
I have to just say that in terms of the club as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the club as a whole, possibly.
We know he's got the attributes. We know he's got a bit of quality. What I'm saying is, in his time at Everton, has he done enough in anyone's eyes to warrant a move? I think there's still question marks over that, but I think what we're buying is potential and what he's going to do for Everton moving forward.
But you've seen some potential buying forward, haven't you? So it's slightly different than, say, Dibbling, isn't it? And then his position and his attributes.
Well, you could say you saw it with Dibbling, but that was at Southampton.
You've seen it in the blue shirts, haven't you? You've seen it in front of your eyes at Hill Dickinson. He did. Come on, the derby was terrible, wasn't he? So it's slightly different to those transfers, but I think for what we want to. What are they talking about? 20 years or something like that?
I don't think a fee has been sounded out, to be honest. Nothing's been agreed. Decent. But I just think the club could play this really well, and hopefully they will.
Well, they are, aren't they?
don't commit to that. What was it, 25 million from the initial agreement? They know that Chelsea probably need to sell anyway.
Well, yeah.
They might not necessarily need the money, Chelsea, but they definitely need to get rid of a bloated squad, and getting rid of a Tyrique George is not going to hurt them too much. So Everton are in a strong position.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if George wants to come here, which that's what the sound bites are, aren't they? Then that's good. Yeah, I think it'd be good. Good signing.
Player with a bit of pace as well, which is obviously something that we desperately need. We just see he looks predominantly played on the left-hand side, but versatile to maybe move over to the right if needed.
And I think he'll fill out a little bit over the next couple of years. And
good mates with Tyler Dibblin as well, isn't he? So maybe that's swayed. Apparently,
I didn't know that.
From the England days. Yeah. Well, there was a story or reports going around was that when he came in January, I think that maybe helped Tyler Dibblin settle a little bit more, because that's one of the things that he was struggling with, wasn't it, Dibblin?
Well, yeah, that's
maybe a bit homesick.
Yes, yeah, but
bring his mate in from Chelsea in England and get him.
I've seen that done in the past. But yeah, I think in terms of his age and where he plays and his attributes, I'm trying to avoid saying profile there.
Say it.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely be up for signing him. I think he'd be a good signing for us, and you would hope that the psychology of a player is different if you sign permanently to if he's on loan, and hopefully you see that on the pitch. But it does raise other questions about other deals, doesn't it? I.e. Grealish.
Well,
and NJ.
It raises questions about that, but it also raises questions about other areas of the pitch where, say, obviously you use the right back as the example. Now, we could easily have just got this deal over the line with George and paid 25 million. Are you happy for the club to be negotiating these deals rather than just saying, right, we're going to go out and pay this money? Obviously, like we did with Hayden Hackney, we've obviously negotiated because they wanted north of 20 million. Okay, Borough are going to suggest or say that they've got that because it's clauses. But I guess in the past, Everton have been stung a little bit by just saying, we'll just pay that money and maybe overspent on players.
Well, yeah.
Are we doing the right thing here, negotiating?
Well, people accuse us of quite rightly so, accuse us of overspending on Dibblin from what we've got on the pitch so far, but that was negotiated down, wasn't it? Didn't Southampton originally want a lot more than that? It was at 45 million, something they were asking or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying about revenue, isn't it? Okay, it's good to maximise your revenue. We've got to do that, but at the same time, you've still got to use it. You've still got to use it effectively, haven't you, really? And paying the price that's first offered to you sometimes is not the best. If you hang on a little bit, you can get a better deal, and hopefully we've done that here, haven't we? I mean, and Piers have done it with Hackney probably. You can dress these. It's always funny now, isn't it? When you see the selling club says one thing, the buying club says the other, don't they? And there's a massive gap between the two.
I think that's the thing. Negotiations now just take place openly in the media. And you've got reports on the Hayden Hackney deal. You got reports probably 2 or 3 weeks ago when it first came up, because it went quiet, didn't it?
Yeah.
So you've got reports maybe from, say, Middlesbrough press saying, well, Middlesbrough are happy for him to let us to run his contract down, which is completely probably not the case at all, because they need that fee. 2-3 weeks later, the deal's been agreed, and everything's been effectively sorted out. So it's just a negotiation. It's just happening in open media.
And people are being briefed, aren't they, and all that.
That's what I mean. The clubs are briefing media,
and it's all part of the negotiation process. And also, as I said, I think the key thing with Hackney was it was the end of the financial year, and better to move the deal into the following financial year. But I think, I think it's a good deal. Tyrique George, some good comments, by the way. I think well worth.
So Chris Roberts says Hackney and George seem promising players. However, we need to bring players in who can start straight away, as our first 11 isn't good enough as it stands.
Do you think Hackney can start straight away if he's coming here as the best player in the Championship?
Well, I don't want to give it a yes or no answer because I haven't seen enough of him. Or what I will say is I'm going to speak to the Teesside Live's Middlesbrough reporter over the next day or two, and I'm going to find out a lot more about Hayden Hackney. And we're going to publish that as a podcast.
That'd be good.
On the Royal Blue channel. What I will say is a question for you. Does it look like that we are going to try and completely, redevelop is probably not the right word, but change as a basic word to our whole middle of midfield? Because
I think while you've got Garner there, I think Garner's probably a certain starter, isn't he? Unless you
James
blame
Garner,
Rebecca, Oh, yeah, James Garner.
Sorry, yeah.
Because, well, the other Garner's no longer an Everton player, isn't he?
No,
technically?
officially. But, I mean, I know, look, we were linked yesterday with Parma midfielder Mandela Keita.
Yeah.
Keita. Now, he's a number 6 from the research that I've done on him.
One this on the internet.
Obviously, this is just a link to reports.
Yeah.
So this, but it did come from Sky Sports. I'm just thinking, could you see a completely new look Everton midfield from what we've seen over the past couple of years? And we probably need it, though.
Well, that would involve not picking James Garner, wouldn't it, really? And KDH. You know, I mean, you always need midfielders, don't you? Really, I mean, if you've got KDH, if you include like the 10 in the midfield, you've got 3 places there, haven't you? If you go on the principle that you always need a spare body, then if you've got 3 midfielders there, you probably need 5 or 6, don't you? Really?
But I know on previous podcasts you have said that we need a 6.
Oh yeah, we've always needed a 6. I mean, the only one we've had since Gareth Barry's probably Fabian Zelf, isn't it? Really.
But obviously, this Mandela Keita from Parma is.
Yeah. You may look that if you get a 6 in, you can play two midfielders a bit more forward than what we have done. So where we've played sort of 2 deep midfielders and KDH playing in front of them. If you play a 6, you can probably get away with playing two more attacking midfielders. Yeah, it would be interesting. It just gives us options, though, doesn't it? Really, and that's what we've needed. I do think because we didn't even mention him last week. The one player we've not really mentioned in all this is Armstrong, isn't he?
Yeah, but is he not more of a maybe not a 10, but he's certainly not.
But what's his future at the moment? Because we were talking about options last week, where we were talking about Garner Gay, and if we bring Hackney in, and we've got KDH there, and we've Middlesbrough as another name. One person we didn't speak about was Armstrong, wasn't it? Really,
you got Alcaraz as well,
and Alcaraz, yeah, he's got a year left, hasn't he? And Armstrong, I don't know where they're up to on his contract. You hear stuff, don't you, that he's not signing or he will sign or whatever. What's his role going to be in all of this? Is he just going to play another season on the bench? Is that good for his development?
I just think that nowadays, regardless of whether you're in Europe or not, injuries, suspensions always have an impact throughout the season.
And people are just coming off the bench, though. Don't you want to change games, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Something which we haven't been able to do.
So you probably need 6 there, don't you? For three. If you include the 10 or whatever you would call it in the midfield field as a midfielder, you need 6 there, don't you?
But you don't really want, say, those 5 or 6 that you mentioned. You don't really want any of them to be like, well, Moyes can use them on the left, because you want specialised players in specialised positions.
Yeah. So Merlin Rail, my mate, can't spell his name, can't say it. Merlin Rail, or whatever his name is, he's in there, isn't he?
But it's fine to have 1 or 2 versatile players that fill in an emergency. We've seen it with James Garner, we've seen it with Croll. I think that's fine, but
you want ideally you want specialised players, don't you?
You don't want Harrison playing on the left next season, do you?
No.
Like he has done a couple of times.
No, well, if you bring Tyrique George in, that probably takes that option away. It's just an interesting thing. You are right. I think it's a really good question, isn't it? That really, if you bring Hayden Hackney in for a decent sized fee, and you go into the Championship to buy him, then are you saying therefore that actually we view him more of a starter than somebody who's a backup player?
I think it's going to be a new look midfield, because they've recognised from the previous season, how many times have we been on this podcast and we've said, and we're not the only ones who said it, like everyone said it, how many times has that midfield been overrun?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In transitions and plenty of times.
Especially at home. We lose shape, don't we, in the midfield quite quickly. And I'm sure some of our central defensive frailties, of which we've spoken about, is down to that as well. Yeah, I think a better balanced midfield. Probably.
I know you've said plenty of times it's not powerful enough.
No, yeah, it's not powerful enough as well. Like, yeah, absolutely. And we got found out that lots of times last season, didn't we? Yeah, I think it's a good point. Is actually, within all these transfer dealings, what is that area of the pitch going to look like? Is KDH? Is he first pick? You might want to just change the midfield dynamic a little bit. Are we just assuming that KDH is the first pick and Garner's first pick?
I just think it's one area of the pitch, because we've got a couple of players in there where we think we don't need to strengthen, because the right back situation is so bad. Maybe the left back as well, obviously the striker situation, but the midfield has been poor, and there's still question marks over for me of whether James Garner and Idrissa Gana Gueye can play together anyway. Now Gueye might be off. It looks like he is. So Hackney coming in.
Technically he is off, isn't he? Yeah.
But I'm hoping that the recruitment team and the club are recognising that the midfield wasn't strong enough and good enough.
Yeah. I mean, this is what they're saying about Hackney, isn't it? That unlike yourself, I'm not really seeing that much of him. Is that he can carry the ball forward. He can move the ball between midfield and the strikers. Which, to be honest with you, we've been pretty average at that all year, really. And he gives us something different. So, yeah, I think it's we will see a different midfield playing a different way next year.
Altel says we are basically having a midfield overhaul and overload in midfield.
In terms of too many players? Possibly.
I don't know. I guess you can't have too many players, but again, the amount of times that we were left short last season.
Yeah, well, some of that was down to the right back issue, wasn't it? Where we ended up having to play Garner right back and putting in bodies in midfield. So yeah, I think it's a really good question, eh?
Jay Ratcliffe says we seem to be cracking on nicely now with transfers. The right back though must come through the door soon, even if it's just to settle fans down.
Yeah,
the right back obviously.
I think people won't sleep until we get a right back in it. But as you said quite rightly, too. By the way, are we saying here about and I think it came up in one of the comments there. Is in all of this, are we just saying we're going to go with the same centre halves as last season? In all this, bear in mind that we've got them all contracted till at least the end of next season.
Despite the worries or concerns maybe that we have over Branthwaite's fitness, Keane and Tarkowski's, I guess, ability at the later stages of the career, and the fact that O'Brien hasn't played there enough, I still think it's one of the strongest areas in the team that doesn't need addressing.
Yeah. Do you think fans will view it that way? If Branthwaite, I mean, think about it, we're taking a bit of a risk here, aren't we? If we're just assuming that Branthwaite's going to be fit all year, are we just going to muddle? And quite rightly, people will argue that actually we need to strengthen there, but actually there's other areas of the pitch, as you say, we need to strengthen a bit more. But this is. Imagine if we start off this first game of next season and Tarkowski and Keane are the two centre halves. There'd be riots. As much as they did okay for a lot of last season, they tailed off drastically at the end.
If we've got a right back in, though,
you would expect to see O'Brien.
There'll be riots if we've got Tarkowski, Keane, and then O'Brien as the right back. Then there will be riots.
Yeah, but I do think Brian said there Tarky was poor last season. He's reaching that part of his career, isn't he, where you can go down quite quickly in a short period of time. Yeah. And we're gambling a lot here, aren't we, on Branthwaite's fitness?
Well, the Blues there, probably in reference to what I've just said, says, God help us if centre-back is our strongest position. I just don't think it's a position that needs addressing this summer.
In terms of numbers, I mean, but what you would pray, isn't it? Best case scenario for us next year is we buy a right back or buy two right backs, which means O'Brien is never going to play right back again for the club. He plays centre half, and Branthwaite's fit, and they are our centre half partnership for most of the year. I mean, if we get 30 games out of them two next year, the centre half, I think that'd be good, wouldn't it?
You don't know what's going to happen in the future. I guess the evidence is there that Branthwaite is suffering with niggling injuries or strong injuries.
He's missed a lot of game time, hasn't he?
I think you've got to go on the basis that Branthwaite and O'Brien are going to be our centre-back pairing.
I think that'd be good.
And Tarkowski and Keane are back up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Whether Moyes sees that, because Tarkowski's probably going to continue on as captain, so it would be interesting to see
how that
dynamic goes.
Isn't the whole captaincy up for debate now anyway? Now Coleman's gone, because what was he? Was Coleman club captain? Was he?
Well, yeah, but obviously Tarkowski was the captain.
Skipper on the pitch. Yeah. But the club captain question is to be asked, isn't it? Really. There's still a few question marks, but a fit Branthwaite for most of the season would address so many issues, wouldn't it, at the back?
I think if the club are using the midfield as their priorities to strengthen with a new look midfield and obviously address the other positions that we've already spoke about, I would be content with keeping that four.
So be in the centre back midfield. Maybe get Grealish in. Get a right back at one, maybe two right backs and left back, and you'd be happy. I think that'd be about right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, sorry, there was a comment there about Grealish, just with regards to pace. I've lost it now. I'll come back to me. I'll come back to it in a sec.
Yeah. But
yeah, look, there's only going to be so much we can do, isn't there? Do we go? I mean, I'm just throwing, fuel on the fire here. Do we need another striker? I'd say 90% of fans would say yes.
Well, Besso's got a year left on his contract, hasn't he?
But that's going to be your most expensive signing, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Unless you can find a gem unless it's a loan deal, I guess, for the lap.
Who was it? Yeah, I know. Thinking about that comment, I thought it was a great comment. Says, why is it every summer we always need 8 players? I think
it's true, though, I think
that's very true, isn't it? Because that's the other thing we've not spoken about, hasn't we? Is Besso's got a year on his contract.
No one thinks Barry's good enough.
Nobody thinks Barry's good enough. If we with Beto, you either extend this deal now, don't you, or sell, don't you? Really?
Yeah, I think that's fair comment.
So what which of those two options are we going to go with? There has been rumours about both. Other ancestors from outside, he could be one that moves on. But then you've got to buy a new striker, and as you say, quite rightly, they tend to be the most expensive players for obvious reasons. And that will be something to look at. I think that's what Brian said there is probably right at the bottom there. Got to cash in on Beto. I think.
How much are we going to get for Beto, though, really? With a year left on his deal?
Well, I mean, if you have a look at his goal scoring record in terms of his goals per minute, I know he's got his limitations, but his goals per minute since Moyes come back, what's he got under Moyes? 16 goals in a season and a half, and he's in the Premier League, and he's not being first choice for certainly half of that time. That's a decent goal scoring record, and he does give you a little bit more than Barry, though. That some will say that's not hard. And I don't want to sell him, but these are the type of decisions we got to take, haven't we? Really, and
you know my feelings on Beto, and I'm sure most people who listen to this podcast know my feelings on him. If you play to his strengths, he'll score your goals. So the question really is, if we keep Beto, are we going to play to his strengths? If we're not going to keep Beto when we sell him, whoever we bring in, are we going to play to that striker's strengths? Are we going to change how we play the game? Or, are we going to sit back and create that space behind the opposition? Or is it going to be a build-up where we get it wide and cross the ball in for probably like a Liam Delap who can win a header or something like that?
I'll give Delap a swerve, to be honest with you, what I've seen. I think, but maybe that's part of restructuring the midfielders, playing a different way, playing the ball into feet through the midfield into the striker. Incesting. I think what we're saying is that every place bar the goalkeeper's up for grabs, isn't it, in some respects?
And James Garner's place. But then again, like you say, where will he fit in? Maybe a new look midfield.
There's a nuclear option there, isn't there? Where you restructure the midfield altogether and play Garner as your right back.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that I would take that.
Do you know what? Surely not. Listen, I've advocated for Garner at right back for the majority of last season just because I think he's probably the best option there. I'm not saying I would support
that, but it is.
Surely Garner wouldn't want that.
No, I wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't. It is. Yeah, I mean, there may be some. Do you think there may be some unexpected departures during the summer that way, or not sort of talking about? If somebody wants to offer Garner money for Garner, he's just signed a new deal. Signed a deal last year.
There was reports last week that Newcastle were interested, but I'll be surprised. You have to look at a huge fee.
I mean, if you're looking at the Elliot Anderson amount,
who's this?
Elliot, what's his name?
Oh, Elliot Anderson, and then Fernandez to Spurs as well.
Yeah, for 80, 100 million.
I think you'd have to be looking at in between 60, 70.
I think 50 or 60 at least, yeah, absolutely. If that's your benchmark.
There's no way Newcastle are paying that.
I'm not saying we're selling players, but what we're saying is that because of the restructure we're talking about here is the club may get offers for players that actually they may think, that's okay, the player might want to go.
Yeah,
Garner might say, Newcastle, rightly or wrongly, is a better opportunity in Everton at this stage.
Yeah, but I think you're looking at, like, obviously Ndai, if a big offer comes in for him. I think Barry could easily go if the right offer comes in. Beto, if the right offer. Alcaraz, if the right offer comes in. It'd boom him. So there's plenty on the cusp.
Yeah. There just might be one or two unexpected departures during the summer that that we're not speaking about. But I think you always end up talking about one player. And we end up talking within about 10. It escalates very quickly to the entire restructuring of the squad.
There's only so much you can fit in a thumbnail as well as a title.
About Tyrique George.
That's
some really good comments. Yeah, that's a good comment, isn't it, by James Graham? England could do with the Ghana right now at right back. He's probably.
I think that was a baffling decision.
Not a joke.
Taking Reece James with his injury record.
An injury record of 1 or 2 players.
Graham Lloyd says, "Please not the lap.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything in him that even hints at a good player."
Yeah, I think that's fair point.
Right, we'll finish off. We'll Hayden Hackney. We've already spoke about him. Hopefully that deal's going to get off the line over the next couple of days. Let's very quickly finish on
Chelsea, Newcastle,
Villa. So they've all been fined by UEFA for financial sustainability breaches.
Yeah.
I mean,
some very small amounts there. There's been some big amounts in the past, hasn't it?
I think it's ironic, isn't it? A lot of these fans, when Everton were, done for PSR breach and stuff. Well, rules are rules. If you break them, you've got to pay the penalty or you've got to pay the fine. Now, obviously, this is a little bit of a different situation because it's under a different banner under UEFA. Look, I'm in many ways in their corner. I think the whole situation.
Whose corner?
The club's corner.
Okay.
In terms of the rules, just prevents clubs like, I'd put Everton in their bracket. Clubs who are trying to succeed, trying to win trophies, trying to get into the Champions League. And then you've got obviously the upper bracket.
I'd exclude Chelsea. I'd include Aston Villa, Newcastle and Forest.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd exclude Chelsea from that.
I just think these rules are they're just hindering and preventing clubs like Everton from being successful.
Well, the rules being in Europe, they are a lot tighter than what they are in the Premier League in terms of what you can spend, isn't it? So it's like we're going into squad cost ratio next year, isn't it? And I know it's a bit boring, this. Somebody said we want to talk about transfers next. So they're far more tighter, the rules, and what you can spend. You can in your season under the European rules, you have to spend less than what you would do under Premier League rules.
70%, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the first issue, isn't it? So they're not, to use one of Sean Dyche's favourite phrases, aligned, are they? The other side of the coin now is, and this is the point here, is the penalties are a lot less stricter in under the UEFA rules than what they are in the Premier League for breaching them, and there have been some decent fines paid out. I mean, how Chelsea managed to breach when they got like an extra 80 million for winning the Club World Cup and all this type of stuff is a mystery, or maybe not. So some of the fines are small, aren't they? Was it Chelsea £3 million or something like that? Have you got what it is? But there's other bits which are more in other, not only do you get a fine, but you also have like spending limits in future years and agreements that you have to sign up to. Yeah. Where you, like in Villa's case, where you can't buy a player unless you sell a player. So there's a little bit of it's a lot different to the Premier League, but the difference is with the Premier League is there's no, if we go on the principle that overspending gives you a sporting advantage in the Premier League, rightly or wrongly, we've had penalties and fines and all this type of stuff and compensation claims. That doesn't exist in the UEFA world. You will just get a fine. And there was a great comment made there, and I totally agree with it, is that that leads to the behaviour of clubs is, well, actually, we will invest, and we're quite happy to invest more than what we should, and that's just the cost of our investment. It's like an interest payment on our investments. That's what it's leading to, isn't it?
But Forest did that with theirs as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So that's it. So we're quite willing to overspend by £50 million and pay a fine of £3 million as a result of that. Okay, they can be quite tight, the agreements that you go into then about what you can and can't what you can sell and who you can sell and all this and the amount. I get that, but in the first instance, that is the reaction, isn't it? We will just overspend. Quite happy to, and we'll just pay the fine.
I guess continued overspending though, could that lead to?
Well, that's where Chelsea are on the line, and Newcastle are in that position, are they? I mean, Villa are as well.
The list here, so Villa at 19.4, Chelsea at 2.6, Newcastle 2.6, and Forest at 2.2.
And Villa would argue 2 years in the Champions League was probably worth 220 million quid or whatever it is, maybe a lot less than that. But it's that the difference is, isn't it? And this is where we're involved, isn't it? Why is there a fundamental, why is there across different approach in Europe than what there is in the Premier League, where actually you can commit the same crime, but in the Premier League you get a sporting sanction like we do, but in Europe you only get a fine? Why is that unfair? Are we being too tight in the Premier League in terms of sporting sanctions that have affected us? If UEFA are only just going to give people fines.
But the Premier League, under this squad cost ratio, potentially look like they're going that way.
They are moving towards that, aren't they? Where it's managed negotiation and all this type of thing. But that's ultimately the principle, isn't it? Sport, and that affects us. Premier League, you get points penalties. You can commit a worse crime in Europe and not get a sporting sanction. In terms of that being bans, haven't you, I suppose, but I just think it's really interesting, the two approaches and whether it's right or not. And I do, the comment was on there spot on. It's just the penalty, isn't it? Really, but actually, if you get into Europe through overspending, even the season of the Champions League, actually it's worth paying, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because all those clubs that we've mentioned have been
in the Champions League,
and successful.
I mean, and it's a lot more than just fines, and ultimately you can get a ban, I think, from Europe, but I just think it's a really interesting,
I just think football, it's all money nowadays, and it does prevent clubs like Everton, these rules from progressing. It's so hard.
Well, we did vote for it, by the way. You're talking about the Premier League rules?
I'm just talking about it all.
Yeah. But we've had this conversation before. We voted for it. Part of a group of clubs who voted for the rules in 2013.
Do you think? Okay, well, this is the ultimate question. Do you think? What's the ultimate aim for any Premier League club to win the Premier League, whether it's realistic or not? Well, all right, stay in the Premier League then. What's the ultimate aim?
It depends where you're on in the year.
No, obviously, of course, it depends how big you are.
If you're an owner of a Premier League club,
all right. Well,
it depends where you are.
From a fan point of view, then.
Do you think Bournemouth fans are bothered about winning the Premier League?
Yeah, I would say that they want to win the Premier League.
Okay. Well, yeah. So yeah. Okay. So what do you want? What do you want? I mean,
do you think under this current structure of squad cost ratio,
sustainability,
whatever you want to call it, do you think Everton within the next 5 to 10 years are going to be able to challenge or win the Premier League?
Right. Okay.
No.
But if you remove that, right? Okay. Within 5 or 10 years, will we win the Premier League? Well, probably less chance, because you've got some clubs with serious rich owners who just spend to the nth degree and just put more distance between them and the rest. That's one of the reasons why it's there, isn't it? Really, and also as well within all of this is what's football. I know the regulator in is clubs can go to the wall, can't they? That's why it's brought in originally, wasn't it, to stop clubs going to the wall and overspending and I mean, look, even with financial sustainability rules in place, look what happened to us under Mashiri. I mean, we very nearly went bust, didn't we? With rules in place. If you took them rules away, how many clubs would go bust, especially with some of the more, sort of some of the owners being a little bit playing the fast and loose. It's difficult, isn't it, really?
And you could argue, though, that the rules also prevented us from being more successful as well. Okay, we spent and we overspent, but we were forced to sell players within that period that we probably normally wouldn't have wanted to sell.
But if you're not overspent in the first place.
Yeah, but my point being that football has existed for 100 years, if not more, without these rules. And like, for me, it was fine before that, and now.
But there was always big clubs, wasn't it? I mean, the biggest clubs always dominated. Who had the most money. That's been the rule of football since day one, hasn't it? Really. I mean, that's just always been there. The big industrial clubs from the north and the north, they've always been the biggest clubs, haven't they? You know?
Yeah, but Blackburn in the 90s.
Yeah, but they were. There was no SCR then, wasn't it? As you say, but what happened to Blackburn as soon as Jack Walker influence went? They went back to where they came from, didn't they? Really, with all due respect.
I just think from a fan point of view, we might get to a cup final. We might even win a trophy. You know, obviously, fingers crossed over the next 5 to 10 years. But there's no chance of us winning the league.
It's a really happy end to the conversation, isn't it? Really, so positive. Yeah, we've had this conversation before. I can understand your point, but the rules in place, aren't we? We voted for them. I mean, it protects us, by the way.
There's not much wriggle room either way of what we want to do, though, is there?
No, but it sort of preserves people's status if you behave yourself, doesn't it? But for some clubs, that suits us, doesn't it? So it gives you stability, doesn't it? In principle, doesn't it? In terms of you preserve your Premier League status. I mean, that's why American owners are here, aren't they? You know, they like stability.
Well, Roy Nixon agrees, says the Premier League has become a closed shop. We can't win the league under the present rules.
Yeah, well, we can't. But as I say, and I think that's a point, but actually, if you took them away, you've got, 3 clubs with Middle Eastern owners influence. How much would Newcastle spend? How much would Manchester City spend? How much with rich American owners would like, say, Chelsea, maybe throw Liverpool in there? How much would they be able to spend without these rules? Far, far more money than what they can do at the moment. And so we'd have even less chance of overtaking them unless we got taken over by Qatar or something like that. It's a difficult discussion to have, isn't it, really?
No, I get it. I get both sides of it.
You know, but there is...
But at least under that, there was more expectation maybe of being able to do something. You can
dream a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh, we want a rich owner and stuff like that, absolutely. But ultimately...
We got rich when it was too late. All this spending that we did, it still fell in under PSR, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But...
the only reason that it looked like we were spending more than we could have was because Mashiri was...
But even Mashiri, a rich man, in theory, you know, you're not as rich as, a Petro-owned club, is it really? You're not Manchester City or Chelsea, are you? We've had this conversation many times before. I can see arguments on both sides.
I'm not necessarily saying rules should be thrown out, because I guess there's got to be some sort of... There's got to be something there to stop clubs from going under. I guess maybe that's maybe what it was there.
They brought in for,
maybe, but what it's turned into is, for me, a bit of a closed shop now, which is tough. Where even if you look at Villa, they've had to cooperate within the rules and the structure, and they've been successful, but they are now going to struggle. They're going to have to sell before they buy, effectively.
Yeah, but they'll be supported by extra Champions League money next year, but they'll have some issues. That's why they talk about selling Morgan Rogers. Yeah, it is a stat for you. Okay. 1960, City won the title in 2012, didn't they? It was first out for 44 years. Okay. I know it's just before the PSR came in, but it's still like Premier League with all the big money and all that type of stuff. 9 of the 10 clubs in the top 10 in 2012 were in the top 10 in 1968, 44 years before. Because the top clubs in English football always stay the same, regardless about whether it's PSR or whatever, because that is just the way football is. There's a hierarchy in football that's existed in English football since 1888, when it was all like, likes of ourselves were massive in Aston Villa because they came from industrial areas and had big crowds and stuff, It's always been there, and it will always remain there.
Yeah, wasn't there some stat in the middle of last season where the top 8 positioned clubs in the Premier League were the top 8 most championship winners?
Yeah, but that's been the case since the certainly pre-war, It's always the same club, so it just always has been. It was just the difference is now is, as you say quite rightly, you're not going to get a Forest or Leicester or whatever, you're not going to get that, and you're not going to get say Ipswich under Bobby Robson, really good, but that's harder to do now. But the big clubs have always been big clubs, but our problem isn't as far deeper than that, isn't it? I've said many times on the pod.
Okay, we've ran over well longer than what we normally would.
What was that? An hour and 20 minutes, yeah?
Hour and 10.
It was far ranging, wasn't it?
Any final thoughts then before we
I think
go?
It's good news that, regardless of whether you think the morality of sponsors, and I share those concerns, I think it's I think we've done well to get a better deal than before, considering the restrictions over having a gambling company on your front of shares. I totally get them, and I support that to a degree, the morality argument. And that's good news. Good news that looks so Hackney is going to sign, and I think good news that we've be prepared to, if we sign Tyrique George, that we'll get probably a better deal than what we had done before the end of June. So
it would be a solid start to the window. Absolutely. If we got both of those over the line, wouldn't it?
And just see what happens with the right back situation.
Yeah, that's I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, that has been your Wednesday Royal Blue podcast. We will be back again later in the week with another show. Thanks to Gav. I've been your host, Ian Croll, and this has been the Royal Blue podcast.